Thanks for downloading this show from PC One. Before we get rolling, here's a word from one of the folks who helped bring you this podcast. The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I'm coming to you in the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. Boy, what an exciting day it is today. I pulled out my podcast table, put it here in the middle of my living room at 317 Gimmick Street. Heath Evans, former fullback in NFL, played 10 years for some very badass coaches. Now he's an analyst at the NFL Network. Heath Evans comes by. We're going to talk everything pro football. I don't know if you guys remember, but about 3.5 years ago when I started this podcast, I said I was going to be talking about football. And hell, I don't think I've talked about football one single time on this podcast other than maybe a game or two. God dang, football is my favorite sport in the entire world. That, UFC, watch some WWF on television, but the NFL and college football are two of the mainstays on the Austin television set during football season. And then after that Super Bowl winds up, I kind of go into withdrawal mode and wait for the Combine to start up, so I got something to watch as far as football goes. Combine's over, so now I'm back jonesing again. My wife and I are currently watching Walking Dead. We're on the last season. Just got finished watching that last episode. I don't know. I don't want to give out any spoilers, Kristen, but I'm starting to worry about Rick and Michonne. They're in harm's way. They're out there trying to gather some stuff up, but I don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, Kristen, the good news is April 30th. It's about to be May. I can't believe it. And the good news is our house is basically completed as far as the remodeling process goes.
Yes, it is.
There's a couple of pendant lights. The lights, our bedside table lights. Those aren't in. Our sconces, whatever you want to call them. We got some sconces now. Back before we did the remodel, they were just lights. Now they're sconces. But they're just a couple of little things like that. But basically, they're redoing the fireplace. They got to put a smooth coat of stucco on that. And then when that dries, I put in the stone for the hearth. For the hearth. And we didn't have a hearth before. So now you can be able to sit your little tail by the fire and get warm.
Yeah, but it's summer now. I miss my window.
But it does get cold here. And who knows where we're going to be when the winter months come by. Because normally we'd be down in South Texas at Broken Skull Ranch. We might be here. I'm going to be down there in South Texas for a couple of weeks. But the point is, you like messing around, huddling up by a fire and getting warm.
I love it.
So that's what you're going to be able to do. And as soon as they finish that aspect of it, and that's going to happen by the end of next week, we'll start moving in. And we're trying to shop for a new bed because our bed busted, and we just threw it away. And here's the thing I was thinking about, Kristen. We didn't think, okay, man, furniture's usually 1, 2, 3, 4 months out when you order it. They got to build it. So we didn't know about the lag time. So now all of a sudden we're ready to get moved back in a couple of days. But the bed lead times are too long.
Well, everything's too long. I thought we just go to the store, buy a bed, and then put it in the house, and that was it. But no, as you found out yesterday, we went to buy a sofa, and that took 3 months to get.
3 months, 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
But they said they'd loan us 2, which that ain't bad.
It's not bad.
But it takes a long time to order this stuff.
When you want furniture, you want to just bring it home the same day.
I know, and that's what disappointed me. But that's one thing that, God dang, we've been so busy with all the hustle and bustle and everything else, the side projects we got going on. It's like we just, it was an oversight. We could have planned better.
Yeah, and I think the interior designer has different ideas about furniture than we do.
Here's the thing about interior designer. First of all, the lady we hired has been exceptional. She's outstanding. And our contractor, all the workers over there have been premier. But when you start talking about, buying furniture, I said, hey, man, it's function over form. I want stuff to look good, but I want a big-ass chair to put my ass in when I want to watch football or whatever. So if it's a man chair, if it sticks out like a sore thumb, I don't care. If the photo's right for Home Design Magazine or Architectural Digest.
We're not going to be an Architectural Digest.
Same thing I was going to say about the podcast. They ain't never going to win an award. Our home ain't never going to be neither one of those publications. So I want the damn thing to look and feel like it's our house. And right now it does. It just ain't got no furniture in it. No. So when we go put furniture in it, like I told you, it's that mom and pop setup that I've been preaching to you for the last 10 years. My mom has a chair in Edna. My dad has a chair in Edna. There's a table in between them. They sit in their chairs. I'm a proponent for that type of setup. How come you were not?
It doesn't look that great.
Once again, I got to go to who cares what it looks like. We're living there.
Where are the dogs going to sit then?
We're going to have a couch and a love seat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one's going to be facing this way. The other, they're going to be facing east and west. Our chair is going to be facing north towards the television. So they got plenty of room. And they got floors. And I don't know how many dog beds. Before I met you, Kristen, I had never heard of a dog bed before. Since the 13 years, damn near 12 years we've been together, we have probably bought between the ranch, Venice, Malibu, Marina Del Rey, 15 dog beds in 12 years. Minimum. Haven't we?
Right.
And so anyway,
more than we bought ourselves.
Yeah. So the dog's got a place to sit. We got to have a place to sit. Now, that place we was at the other day, I dig that couch because it kind of had like electronic
It was
control.
reclining, yeah.
And so you could kick it back like it was a man chair, like it was a Lazy Boy. We walked over to the Lazy Boy store. Their fashion wasn't quite what we had envisioned, so I won't be having a Lazy Boy in this. But my point is, with that reclining couch that we saw,
yeah,
I can handle something like that. But it's got to be function over form.
No, I like the reclining sofas.
Okay. Well,
I'm all for that.
Okay, and then the Jesus Christ tomorrow. I didn't mean to say Jesus Christ, but I did. Family friendly, and it's Sunday. I shouldn't have said that because it's the Lord's day. It's his day to rest.
Someone will be upset.
It's his day to rest.
Yes.
I'm going to let him be. But Monday, tomorrow, the day after you hear this podcast, our audio-video guy is going to come install the TV, one in the living room, one in the bedroom.
Yay.
I can't wait.
I know.
We're getting close.
Yeah, and I have to clean.
Well, I tell you what, man, those guys did a rough cleanup over there, and there's still dust and stuff everywhere. It's still a pretty major cleanup.
Yes.
But are you happy with the way everything turned out?
I am very happy.
Are you glad we did it?
Very glad.
And I'm very glad that you have never told me how much we spent doing this. So keep that little secret to yourself.
I am.
What we're going to do for the rest of the day, Heath Evans is my guest today. He's already come and gone. He's headed over to the NFL Network to do his work for today on Sunday. And I'm going to turn this is going to be one of the first podcasts I've ever turned in early to Stacy over to 90210. She's going to be absolutely thrilled with me. I asked my wife, I said, hey, would you help me with an open real quick? And she says, Callie just took a nap. The dog's been playing all morning. It's a chance for me to get a little cat nap in. I said, I'm trying to finish this podcast to turn it in. You won't help a brother out. What does the rest of your day entail?
Cleaning the house.
Are you going to take the dog swimming?
Yes, I am.
Callie will be her second trip inside the swimming pool, so we'll see how she does this go-round.
And she's learning the doggy door.
How's that going?
Good. She just follows Moolah.
Moolah and her have been going gangbusters. It's a little bit of a problem because before we got Callie, Hershey and Moolah were best friends. Now Moolah and Callie are best friends, and Hershey's kind of left out.
Yeah.
Kind of feel bad for her.
I do too.
She'll be fine.
Yeah.
Hey, well, anyway, I appreciate you helping me open this podcast.
I didn't really help too much.
That's all you had to do.
All right.
All right. I love you, honey bunny.
Over and out.
And get to stepping over and out. Try to use some truck driver language on the Steve Austin show.
You know, I was at the gym the other day, and my trainer, he's a millennial. Well, he calls himself the Y generation. Is that something?
Yeah.
Okay. He's never heard of a CB because we were talking about CB handles.
You ain't never heard of a CB? Well, then he don't know what a handle is. A handle is a name for the person that's talking on a CB.
Right, and my handle as a kid was Cisco Kid.
Cisco Kid. Mine was Fleabag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, Cisco Kid.
I don't know how I got on that, but...
Yeah. Well, Cisco Kid, why don't you relocate your 20 and get on out of space? I'm going to finish wrapping up this show. Before we go any further, I got some good news for all you Loot Crate fans. The next crate and the special bi-monthly WWE Slam Crate series has been announced, and the theme is Stables, because a team of two may be great, but a team of three or more is even better. The Stables Crate pays tribute to the WWE superstars who band together and became forces of nature. So sign up at lootcrate.com/Austin by June 15th at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time so you don't miss out. Because once this crate is gone, it's gone. And it's loaded with great items you'll only find from Loot Crate, featuring the likes of Triple H from his days with DX, Sasha Banks from the Four Horsewomen, and Bray Wyatt of the Wyatt family. And, of course, there's an authentic T-shirt you can only get in the WWE Slam Crate. And there's a second action figure of the Attitude Series line. So sign up now at lootcrate.com/Austin and do it by June 15th at 9 p.m. PST so you don't miss out. And remember to use my promo code Austin to save $3 off on your Stables Slam Crate now. That's lootcrate.com/Austin. And use the promo code Austin to save $3 off your crate. But do it by June 15th at 9 p.m. PST because once this crate is gone, it is gone. And do it now because Stone Cold said so. Oh, hell yeah.
This is Jay Moore. I have a new sports podcast every day. More sports. Hashtag more sports. You don't even have to know anything about sports to love it. All you got to know is I get down. I tell it like it is. I curse. I know. That's weird. And I guarantee you will love it. PodcastOne app. Please hit subscribe.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Boy, it's going to be a loose podcast. Good morning, Heath. How are you?
I'm good. Been a busy draft weekend, but good to be here in your presence for sure.
Heath Evans is my guest here today. And, man, God dang, where did we meet, Heath?
We met at that sushi spot over in here in Marina Del Rey, over there off Washington by Costco. Yeah. I won't tell the name.
Man, I've been watching you for years, and lately as an NFL analyst on NFL Network. And then, of course, I watch your playing career. I remember all 10 years that you played. Wow. And you played for some great head coaches. I want to get to all that. But God dang, running into you, I said, man, the draft just happened. I saw you the other day. I know you've been training with Mike O'Hearn over at Gold's Gym. I always follow what Mike's doing in the gym, that big, strong guy.
He is too strong.
And you've been training hard with him. So I said, man, let's call Heath and see if he's up for a podcast. Man, they're keeping you busy as an NFL analyst.
There's no more off season. It was honestly less busy as a player because as a player, you weren't dealing with free agency. You weren't dealing with draft. You weren't dealing with the combine. Well, now as an analyst, you literally go from the regular season into the playoffs. Super Bowl doesn't wrap up until first week of February. Combine is the last week of February. Then you go into the free agency period where all the big-name guys are switching teams. And then right after that, you start prepping for the draft. After draft, now we're heading into OTAs and minicamp. So, like, I'll shut it down about halfway through June and take most of July off until training camp comes. But you know, your brain is fried from about July 26th when training camp start up till, close to the end of May, early June.
Okay, you made the transition from an NFL player to a very successful analyst. Was that the goal, or did the opportunity just present itself to you?
I was always a realist, so I majored in communications at Auburn, but I always thought, listen, fullbacks are never going to have that big, bright name. They're never going to be the Hall of Fame guy, so you're not going to walk into a national gig. So I thought, hey, I'd have to go back to New England and start with local, Patriots beat writers, or go back to Palm Beach, Florida, my hometown, and work my way up. Somewhere along the way, my big mouth and big opinions, offered me a national gig before I even decided to retire. So when I decided to shut it down in 2011, ESPN, NFL Network had already offered me contracts, and it was just a blessing from the good Lord to be able to take a 10-year career. But listen, fullbacks, you were the rock star of the WWE for all those years. So I don't even know how to find what the fullback position of the WWE would be, but it's kind of like the toenail, And so it's people like 10 years, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, but it's different than the quarterbacks and wide receivers. So it was a blessing. But I've always told people, I've got an opinion. You mentioned the great coaches I played for. I mean, between Mike Holmgren and Bill Belichick and Sean Payton, I've formulated a school of thought that I believe you direct a team and you scout players. And so I've just always been very opinionated. When I'm wrong, I'd be the first one to raise my hand and say, hey, I was wrong, I missed. But the guys I played for did it the right way. And so I've always got big opinions on something.
So when you got those opportunities, okay, like I said, fullback. I mean, it's not a glory spot. I mean, at Seattle, you're clearing holes for Sean Alexander.
Right,
exactly. He was a very prolific back in the day.
Yeah.
So when you decided to become an NFL analyst, okay, what do you do? I mean, your communications majored at Auburn. Would that automatically make you ready, or do they put you through a training camp?
Yeah, no. See, the NFL has this thing called the NFL Broadcast Boot Camp. And so they'll help guys kind of prep for second career. I mean, the NFL has so many awesome programs for guys to be a part of while they're playing. If you want to go into financial investing when you're done, they'll have like boot camps for that. If you want to go into real estate, they'll help you with that. So the league's done a great job of trying to the formula of trying to find, okay, I get to play. The average career is like 2.5 years. So they always try to help guys think about what's next. I think when it comes to the broadcast world, you either have it or you don't. And obviously, listen, you've been in movies, you've done different things. Like, you can go see acting coaches and you can see different, like, speech coaches. At the end of the day, The Rock had a gift, and he's worked hard at it, and it's gotten better and better and better. But if he didn't have it from the jump, no one was going to be able to give him that. So my communications degree, I'll be really honest, helped me not at all. Matter of fact, it just made my college time harder because that degree was very difficult.
Right.
But I always had just the ability to – I never understood why people would get mad at people's opinions. Like, you and I, if we sat here for an hour, we're going to find a whole bunch of stuff we disagree on, but I respect you as a man, you respect me as a man, let's go on about our way. So my opinions as an analyst kind of shock and awe people, well, they're just my opinions,
right.
You know? And so former players get mad because, like, you forget what it's like to be a player. I'm like, no, when I screwed up, I should have been called out, just like I'm going to call you out.
Yeah.
So I think the good Lord just gave me a gift of gab and then the ability to know who I am. And so what people say or rebuttal to me it's never – I grew up with the Marines, so my skin is 5 inches thick, you know?
Man, I've been in wrestling business, entertainment business for a long time, so I got pretty thick skin myself. I was just breaking down a particular wrestler a few weeks ago on a podcast, and all of a sudden, all my Google alerts on Stone Cold bashing so-and-so. No, I was analyzing the guy. It's like John Gruden talking about a quarterback in his quarterback camp.
Absolutely.
Hey, man, your throwing motion's too long. We've got to shorten that thing up. Or, hey, you got to get your second, third reads faster. So all I would do was offering some critique and my analysis, and all of a sudden I'm bashing. So sometimes I hate when people construe that as, because I'm probably just as like you are with football players in the league. Hey, man, I want every pro wrestler to get over and make as much money and have as much success as possible. So if I offer my opinion, it's just an opinion. And so if you differ with it, but I ain't here to bash nobody.
Right.
Because you always got your haters.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a hater. Like you said, I'm a realist.
Yeah. Call it like it is.
So, How'd you hook up with NFL Network? They just came calling, and you've been there ever since?
You're talking about being a hater. Like, I was honestly hating on the NFL owners, which is funny because the NFL itself doesn't own the NFL Network. These 32 owners own the NFL Network.
Really?
So if you remember back after the 2010 season, the NFL owners locked us out. So it's the opposite of a strike. Everyone in the world, because of this PC day and age we live in, the owners, with all their power of media and really the way they could position the rhetoric, thought that the players were stepping aside, striking again, as they had done 2 decades ago, wanting more money. It was the exact opposite. The owners were basically locking us out of work and saying, we want more money back from you guys. So I wasn't a player representative that year for the Players Association. So the president, which was Drew Brees at the time, and then DeMaurice Smith, who heads up the NFLPA, were kind of feeding me our side of the story. So when the NFL owners would release a statement, I would release a statement. Well, it ended up on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I didn't like MSNBC too much. We won't go into that. But it was just I became a voice for the players, kind of somewhat versus the owners. NFL Network calls up my agent one day and says, hey, we want Heath to come on and be a part of the show. My agent, of course, says he's more than willing to do it, but his rhetoric's not going to change. And no, that's exactly what we want. So lo and behold, and long story short, I go on and do about a 10-minute call-in interview, say everything I've said, that basically the owners are basically lying to the fans, and here's our side of the story. I hang up the phone. They call 5 minutes later and offer me a job. So it was again, being bold with my opinions, being factually based, and then being able to communicate a very long story into about 45 seconds in these minute windows of time, which is difficult to do. I prefer podcasts because you and I can, just kind of shoot the breeze for an hour and there's not these time constraints.
Right.
But on TV, you get 45-second windows of time to jam in 10 minutes of information.
Now, they talking to you and your IFB and your little earpiece because, hey, man, you got to wrap it up, Heath, or so-and-so's got to jump in there, and they're calling shots?
They're some of them. Most of my producers now are basically just talking junk to me in my ear. I've got one guy named Richard Issacow who we stole from ESPN and Major League Baseball Network, who's a great producer, but he will literally be in my ear, bud, talking. If I'm talking about a quarterback or something, like, hey, no one's listening to you. No one even likes you. You're a fullback. No one even knew you played football. Like, he'll be in my ear just messing with me on national TV while I'm going at it. But, yeah, they'll give us the wrap. Most time, if you hear the wrap, you've got about 10 to 12 seconds to kind of wrap up your school of thought on what you're trying to communicate. Some of our Hall of Fame Famers will just blow right through those rap calls, and then you're screwing up commercial breaks and everything else. So producers have a tough job of what they're doing as well behind the scenes.
But what's the daily prep for you as you go into a gig, or is it just simply just watching football games, checking scores, and just offering your analysis?
Yeah, all I do is I watch tape. And that's the only thing I ever do. My goal is to never give anyone anything they can find on Google. I feel like if people are going to turn on NFL Network to see me, they're wanting something from my 10 years of my stories. They want to know, okay, Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears trade from 3 to 2. They make this crazy trade. What did they see in him? Well, I've been destroyed the last 24 hours because of my thought process on this young quarterback.
I've been watching that.
Yeah, but my job is to give my opinion. I think the kid can make every throw. I think he can do all this stuff, but I think he's going to be a mentally weak quarterback, so he'll never develop into what our league needs him to be at a leadership position.
Why do you think that?
Well, I'm sure you stepped into a ring many different times, or maybe you've been in a street fight. The moment you step foot into switching that mentality over to, I'm getting ready to go to blows with this guy, I think you can most time as a man look into another man's eyes and tell real quick what he's made of. I also think that you can listen to a man's verbiage, and I think great leaders have the ability to look into a man's soul very quickly and say, hey, are you the best quarterback in this draft? And no matter how he answers, you'll be able to read through not only his intellect, but his verbiage, and then just even his posturing, his body language. Talk to Andrew Luck when he was coming out. Never once did he say anything to puff himself up, but you saw this killer inside him. He didn't need to answer the questions because he already knew it. And so he'd puff up everyone else around him, not in arrogance, but just because he didn't need to praise himself. I listen to guys try to convince – I don't think they're even trying to convince me or to convince these other guys. They're trying to convince themselves that they belong. And so I've been wrong before, but most of these quarterbacks, I hit hard on. RG3's rookie year, I said, guys, this isn't going to last. This quarterback, he might be brilliant in the classroom, might be brilliant on the chalkboard. He is not football smart. He doesn't see our field. His vision is atrocious. Colin Kaepernick, again, I was called a racist, everything else. It had nothing to do with their skin color. I'm a huge Cam Newton fan. I wish he'd focus in a little bit more, but it had nothing to do with white, black, Asian, whatever else. Those boys can't see the field. And for RG3, he was thin-skinned. And the world got to see it for the last 3+ years, and then I got all these apologies. I think with Mitchell, it is people, he only got 13 games. I could care less if he only had 13 games. Ryan Tannehill had very few games for the Miami Dolphins when they drafted him, and I love the pick. And he's starting to grow into what I think he will be. But it's believability and trying to see really into a man's soul. And, I grew up with a Marine, so my dad raised me very hard. But I try to take all the stuff that these coaches have taught me about what it takes to be a successful quarterback. And then the worst quarterback I ever played with was Trent Dilfer. He won a Super Bowl, for goodness sake. I had Trent Dilfer, Matt Hasselbeck, and then Drew Brees, and the greatest of all time, and Tom Brady. And so my last 6 years were spent with Drew Brees and Tom Brady. So I know a little bit about quarterbacks.
So the other two quarterbacks taken in the first round were...
Patrick Mahomes. So you get a big trade with Kansas City. And then Watson, the Texans move up and snatch him there at 12.
I think he's exciting there. Now, I don't know anything about what you know about football, but I like Deshaun Watson at Houston with that defense and the dynamic just athlete that guy is, and the leadership in that championship game, all through the season. Then coming off the stellar junior year, and it kind of started off slow in his senior year, and then starts putting it all together. They win a national championship. I really like him at Houston. I don't know about Patrick Mahomes, where he went, because he's going to be on the bench for a while.
Yeah, and he's.
But anyway, you talk about this.
Well,
these two.
Let's start with Kansas City because they're the ones that jumped up to steal Patrick at 10. Patrick's a guy that I think if there's an offense in college that's the worst thing for any quarterback to be prepared for the NFL, it's Texas Tech. That being said, he's just the spread mechanics. This whole coaches have gotten lazy. And people wondering why Bill Belichick keeps distancing himself from all the other coaches in the league and how the consistency. Well, Bill keeps coaching off of a mental pedigree. So, your mental stamina and mental aptitude is more important to Bill Belichick than your 40 time, the explosive nature of your hips, your ability to change direction, because he firmly believes that if Stone Cold is in the ring with mental discipline, mental toughness, fully locked into the full game plan of this wrestling match for whatever it would be, 60 minutes, will beat out the younger kid that might be stronger, might be faster, might be more athletic, can do more cool things off the top of the ropes, but will make the crucial poor decision in minute 48. And really, if you look at the Super Bowl, it's the prime example of just the stamina it takes to do things the right way for 60 minutes. And so in the college spread offense, it's been very simplified. There's not the protections for the offensive linemen. There's basically one or two that exist. Well, with New England, we'd go into a game plan with 18 different protection schemes, and Tom could get up to the line of scrimmage, and no matter what that defense threw at us, all of us in this 5 or 6 second window of time could take Tom's instructions, flip it to our mind of like, hey, now we're adjusting to this, and we had an answer for every answer that they thought they were throwing at us. Well, what's happened in college football now is these guys, quarterbacks, wide receivers, all of them, they get up to the line of scrimmage and they look to the sideline. The coach has peeked out about what the defense looks like it's going to do, and then the coach tells them exactly what play to run. So even the mental dynamics of the huddle, these quarterbacks don't have. And these players aren't having to transition information in their head very quickly. It's basically, it is the most elementary style of ball you can get. So it's allowed coaches to be in the college game where they never should be because they can't teach the stuff that you and I learned in high school ball about defensive technique, offensive technique, the 3 technique, 5 technique. They're not even teaching this stuff anymore. And they don't have to because the coaches get to control the outcome of the game from the sideline. So a lot of these quarterbacks aren't ready because it's been so dumbed down, simplified.
Well, that's the big thing for me because I'm watching all these big arms come out of Texas Tech. You had a couple of Houston Cougars.
Right.
So anyway, you're just launching the ball. I'm thinking, God dang, these guys lighted up 5,000 yards in a season. So they got to be a hit. So I didn't know what was going on. So I'm wondering why all these guys from Texas Tech Texas Tech has had several of them that have thrown for big numbers but just never made the cut.
Baylor, too. There's all kinds of different, even, like Johnny Manziel. Like, the people that strap their name to him coming out, I'm like, what in his college game transfers to the NFL? All these games were his highlight reel. I'm like, this doesn't transfer to the NFL.
Did you see busting him right off the bat?
Absolutely. And I had a major issue with a lot of guys that I respect in our league. And I'm like, you have to show me, like, why do you think? And I was the first one to call that said, Tim Tebow's, the speed of our NFL game, it never affected Tim. He outran everyone. Now, when he was throwing, he could never throw, so he could never really convert to the quarterback play that you've got to have arm-wise in this league. But when Tim would throw, our league wasn't catching him. Like, he was outrunning defenders. He was still a dynamic runner. Johnny Manziel in training camp was getting overwhelmed by the speed of the 2s and 3s he was playing against in these preseason games. So not only he couldn't throw, but his whole athletic ability got shot out the window. And so, that offense at Texas A&M was very footloose and fancy-free, no structure,
How did he
no
have
real
the success
dynamics.
there? Because all of a sudden you get the guy in open field. He was really, really shifty and very elusive. All of a sudden he goes to combine and runs a 4.6.
Right.
I'm thinking, holy. That's very pedestrian in the NFL. I mean,
Absolutely.
I like you play with Tom Brady. Tom's probably going to run a 5.1. He's probably, like you said, the greatest quarterback of all time.
Right.
But he plays smart plays within the pocket.
Yeah.
But Manziel, that's not his game. And all of a sudden, man, he really got exposed he looks like the best athlete in college football, but all of a sudden in the pros, not so fast, my friend.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, even in the SEC, you're playing a normal SEC defense, you might have, 3-4 guys that get drafted, but it's still not 11. And out of those 3 or 4, one might be a superstar. And listen, Auburn didn't have any good draft picks this year. I can go to Vandy. Had one linebacker, Cunningham, in the second round. Like, you can go up and down. Like, the talent level at the NFL, there's a reason the average career is only 2+ years. There's a reason that less than 1% of D1 football players ever even get an invite to even try out for something that we do. So the toughest job of any scout is saying, what we saw on tape here, does it convert to the NFL fire? And the chances, the truth is most time it doesn't. So with Patrick, I had an opportunity to spend about 3 hours with him about 2 weeks ago. And the one thing that impressed me was the prep that he's done and his ability to say, yeah, I know what I did at Texas Tech doesn't convert. You listen to all these other guys like, oh, no, we did this and this converts. We did this and that. No, see, you don't. You already you're behind the 8 ball because you don't even know what you don't know. Patrick knew what he didn't know, and he said very candidly, I've got a lot of work. I'm no good at this. I'm no good at this. I'm no good at this, but here's what I'm starting to learn. And I'm like, this kid's got a chance. And so when you get him with a great quarterback coach like Andy Reid And then in a place like you mentioned where he can sit for a year or two behind Alex Smith, this kid's hungry, and he wants to learn, and he wants to do it the right way. And so we've seen Andy Reid take Michael Vick, who was the greatest athlete we've ever seen in the NFL, but when it came to quarterback play, was a horrible quarterback. Andy converted him late in his career. So if you got a Patrick Mahomes who's hungry for that, that's what people, you want that type of personality. You want that type of grinder. Now Watson, listen, no pun intended, talking about a stone-cold killer. This kid 2 years in a row versus Alabama didn't blink.
Yeah.
And they lost the first one, won the second one. He should have won both of them. Yeah. And you talk about all the different coverages and schemes that a Nick Saban's defense is going to throw at you in 60 minutes. Didn't bat an eye. And then just the ultimate ability to lead men. Because if you can't lead a college team, our boys are going to chew you up and spit you out. And it won't just be one of them. It'll be all of them, and they'll enjoy doing it. And it's not a malicious thing. It's just you got to have it. And so people are like, oh, what about Marcus Mariota? Well, no, Marcus is a dog. He's just quiet. There's a difference between looking in someone's eyes and being like, okay, you're just kind of a humble, quiet superstar. You kind of want to be by yourself, but when the lights come on, there'll be something that switches in your eyes and your mental mechanics that says, okay, I got this, boys, let's go. That's a must. So you don't have to be loud, boisterous. You don't have to be like Tom Brady and talk trash to Ray Lewis, but you better have that dog in you. Otherwise, our league, it chews you up and spits you out.
But Marcus Mariota, that was one of the there was a knock against him. It's like, hey, man, we don't know if this guy has enough fire.
Absolutely.
You run a dynamic offense at Oregon, but can that translate? Boy, all of a sudden, this past season, this kid puts together a hellacious year.
Yeah.
So he's picking everything up, and so he showed the upside that everybody thought he had. And I think he's turned into a really damn good leader that those guys know and trust that will take him downfield. But when he came in, to me, if you remember, that was one of the maybe questions about him. Is this guy fiery, or does he have enough command?
Yeah. Well, and because we said there's already a knock because he's coming from Oregon. Yep. So this offensive system is nothing like you're going to run in the NFL. And we hadn't really seen a spread quarterback transfer and have success unless it was Cam. Well, I've always said Cam's first 3 or 4 years, if you would have taken, 6'5", 255 away from him, he wouldn't have converted, and the league might have chewed him up and spit him out. He was just a grown man that you couldn't tackle. He could run. He could do different things that we've never seen before. So if it was sheer quarterback grade for Cam, he would have been a failure. But because of size and stature, he was able to blend some of the college game to the NFL, and it became very potent. But as we saw last year, if the quarterback play is not catching up with the athletic play when he gets dinged up and the athletic running back quarterback takes a step back from an A+ to a C+, he looks like a pedestrian quarterback. And so that's that balance, and Marcus has a long way to go, but at least he's on the right track, But no, last year, Marcus put together some good tape. They've just got to continue to develop a true pocket passing offense, because that's, if you look at the Aaron Rodgers, if you look at the Bradys, the Peyton Mannings, like if you choose to build your team around your quarterback, you got to win from the pocket. You got to win from your quarterback taking that ball and within 2.5 seconds delivering a strike to the open man based on what he's seeing and reading. You can go about it the Seattle Seahawks way, but you better have the best defense and you better have the best running game. People want to talk about Russell being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, which he is, but what people don't want to talk about is, throughout that playoff, when he won the Lombardi, he threw for 163 yards a game, and he ran for 13 yards a game. So he didn't even account for 200 yards. That doesn't win you a Super Bowl. That defense and Marshawn Lynch won them a Super Bowl. So if you're going to build your team around a college-style offense, you better have the best defense and you better have the best running game, because if you don't, you can't compete.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say Russell Wilson has now made the turn?
He definitely has started to, and so you look at what we have to find out is, like, we've seen Peyton with a horrible defense. We've seen Brady with a horrible defense. Yeah. We've seen Aaron Rodgers with a horrible defense. We've seen Drew Brees with a horrible defense. The full Bill Belichick always preaches complementary football. So people always want to talk last year that the Atlanta Falcons offense was better than the Patriots. No, this is the way you spin it is every week Bill builds a game plan of, like, this defense that we have, how long do we want them on the field versus the offense they're going to play. So sometimes Bill would go into the game and say, hey, we can throw for 500 yards, but that might mean our defense gets stuck on the field versus that offense for for 30 minutes.
Right.
We'd much rather that defense. So when they played Seattle, their whole thing was, let's take the air out of the ball, because I don't want my defense having to tackle Marshawn Lynch for 30 minutes, and I don't want them having to chase Russell for 30 minutes. So if we can take up 35 minutes of offense, only give them 25 minutes of offense, our stats might not be as good because we've run the ball, we've dinked and dunked, but we've then beat and defeated their two best players on offense by only having to play them 25 minutes.
Right.
So where Atlanta this year, they just want to throw the ball everywhere, run it everywhere, score as fast as they can, which they ran up a whole lot of stats, but they lost 5 regular season games, and they ultimately lost the most important one of the year. So the complementary side of things was what the average fan doesn't understand, because a good coach will say, yeah, our offense can do this, but is that what's best for our defense and our special teams this week? And that's the brilliance of a Bill Belichick.
So what was your thoughts when Atlanta Falcons rolled in to play the New England Patriots? What was your pick?
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden there at halftime, there's that hellacious lead by Atlanta. What was your pick going into the game?
It was Patriots, and I thought it'd be the Patriots by about 15 to 20.
What were your thoughts at halftime?
At halftime, it was pretty bleak. I think people always, was it over? No, because I remember, most of our analysts had picked Atlanta, and most of our analysts got smacked around by Bill Belichick and Tom Brady somewhere throughout the course of their career. So most of the time I always pick against them. So they were running their mouths. But this is the power of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They were running their mouths so hardcore through halftime. When they scored the first time with about 3 minutes left to go in the third quarter, even though they were still down by 17 points at the time, that whole green room sitting there in the Super Bowl in Houston, it changed. I didn't say a word. Everyone in that green room got scared, from Deion Sanders to Michael Irvin to Kurt Warner to Marshall Faulk, you name it. All of them already knew, and that's the power of what Bill and Tom have created, because they were still 17 points down with less than a quarter to play, and pretty much all those Hall of Famers in that room already knew it was over. And so I think that's the prowess that kind of goes with the pedigree of Belichick Brady.
But, man, I tell you what, when the Falcons rolled into halftime and had that really long – it was a halftime show because it was a Super Bowl. All of a sudden,
the longest.
Had it been regulation halftime, then come on back out, maybe they've been able to keep that momentum. But, all of a sudden, like I said, when New England scored, okay, now there could be a chance. And then all of a sudden that machine starts getting rolling.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like Atlanta kind of nutted up and started playing tight.
Yep.
When at first, they went out there, we ain't got nothing to lose. Start throwing the ball, Matty Ice is on fire. They was lighting everything up.
Absolutely.
But, man, at halftime, everything changed.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you remember, they came back out, Atlanta got the ball. They go 3 and out. You're thinking, okay, here it goes. Well, then the Patriots went 3 and out. And then the Falcons took the ball all the way down, and after that, did they kick a field goal? I don't know, but they had kind of swung the momentum back. They kind of salvaged they kind of weathered that initial storm of the 3 and out. And then that last drive of the third quarter for Brady, when they marched all the way down the field and scored with about 2 minutes left in the third quarter, that's when that feeling of, oh, shoot, we're in trouble, if you're a Falcons fan, kind of started to kick in.
And then a couple of the penalties started going against Atlanta. They started shooting themselves in the foot, and all of a sudden, oh, man, here comes Arthur Blank down the sideline. Again, Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend.
Absolutely.
Send a raw signal?
Yeah.
Or do you think it was a rookie mistake?
I mean, I just think it's I'm not sure. Arthur always, the times where he appears on the sidelines, I've always tried to figure out the how and the why. I think he does it more from like an encouraging thing of like, hey, I love you boys, and I'm not even sure the players really even notice it. But obviously for the media perspective, obviously they start locking in them with the cameras, and then that lead starts to dwindle. I don't know. Arthur's a great owner. And he's a great man in a lot of ways too, but it's always funny to watch him.
What's the difference between a good owner and a bad owner? Because, man, Dan Rooney just passed away.
Yeah.
They had Jerome Bettis out there, and Franco Harris, one of my favorite running backs of all time.
One of the best.
Miraculous reception, or what's it called?
The Immaculate Reception.
The Immaculate Reception. Man, just going back as a kid, I was a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So what's the difference between a good owner and a bad owner?
I think...
Because I'm just thinking, hey, man, I got a job. I'm playing for X team, and here's the owner. So what makes an owner a good owner versus a bad owner?
I think there's different versions of good ownership, but every good owner that I've ever met or been around has stayed completely out of the football world. They're billionaire businessmen for a reason. And there is a business of football where I firmly believe, there's a whole, speech that I give to corporates, all over the country, the business of football, because I firmly believe that everything I learned in the league transfers to the mom and pop construction owner, transfers to an Arthur Blanket, former Home Depot owner, transfers to a marriage, transfers to anything when it talks about humility and teamwork. What made Robert Kraft so awesome and what makes him is that he will never, ever, ever interfere with what Bill Belichick thinks is best for the football team. I firmly believe what makes Bill so great is that he will never, ever, ever interfere with what Robert Kraft thinks is best for the business operations of the New England Patriots. And the beauty of two of the most powerful men, well, probably the two most powerful men in sports, completely humbling themselves and saying, I will never step over my boundaries of the power you've given me, is an amazing thing. And people always ask me, how come Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia and some of these other coaches aren't leaving the Patriots anymore? And how come Mike Vrabel didn't take some of the head coaching jobs he was offered this year from the Houston Texans? Because all these New England pedigree coaches have realized they get job offers because they've been under Bill. But if the ownership and the general managers aren't offering what Bill's been offered and trusted with in New England, you can't win. Because the way Bill does it, he controls the roster. He controls all the financial output because for you, he might want to control your ego a different way than mine through what he offers you. He might know Stone Cold is best suited. He can handle $5 million a year. He can handle only a 3-year contract because we don't want him to – if we give him too much – if we give him a 5-year, then he might just get a little lazy this. Heath can only handle a 1-year deal, but we're going to pay him a little bit more just so he feels loved and appreciated. All those different avenues of control Bill has, and he never gets stepped on by the owner. And so I firmly believe what makes a great owner in this business is a great owner trusting his ability to hire a great coach and then completely submitting to the authority of that head coach in the football realm. If that head coach needs a new weight room, get him a new weight room. If that head coach needs new supplement nutrition stuff, get him a new cafe. If that head coach needs money to hire a new defensive coordinator that's more expensive than he wants to pay, he'll say, okay, I trust you, so I'm going to give you that money to go do it. But when you have the power struggle, my dad in the Marines told me that anything with two heads is a freak. So if you're going into war and you've got one guy trying to lead this command and this guy over here and you got two people giving you instructions, you're never going to be in full operational power.
Right.
But if you have one guy that is the lead and he is working harder than anyone to make this platoon or this team or whatever it is the best, and you're submitting to that authority, that's where you have a chance to succeed. And that's what the Patriots, despite the arrogance that's perceived from the outside because people don't understand the so-called Patriot way, everything there starts with humility. And that is why they're great year in and year out.
What about Jerry Jones? I mean, me being from Texas, been following Dallas Cowboys forever. He comes in, man, they build that thing up to what it's been built up to. And they had a great year last year with some dynamic picks, Ezekiel Elliott and the gang. And then, interesting with Dak Prescott,
yeah.
The QB, god dang, what a year he had. So, in the past, with Jason Garrett coming on, it just seems like, Jason Garrett's a head coach, but it's almost like Jerry Jones is the head coach. So, talk to me about that. Is Jerry Jones in there too much? I mean, these two rookies, it was and a great offensive line. And it was a whole 53-man squad, whatever.
Yeah.
They went deep in the playoffs, and then they got beat. Historically, has Jerry Jones had his fingers in there too much?
Yeah. And the problem is with Jerry is he knows way more football than all the other owners. And so in his defense, a lot of owners are billionaire businessmen. But we've seen Jerry, fight for too much control. I mean, you go back to Jimmy Johnson. I would have loved to have seen what could Dallas have been if Jimmy – we know Barry came in and took the structure of what Jimmy and Jerry had created together and won another ring. But what could have been? Because – Jimmy was one of the few guys that was able to rein in all those personalities and really put all those pieces in place for the dominance that they showed the world. And by dominance, it was dominance because they were playing some of the greats. I mean, those Niner teams, like there were some teams, pre-free agency era that were locked and loaded with talent, and he was dominating them. And that's like it was a different day and age. So I do think that. And I don't know, there's always two sides to every story.
What happened to Jimmy Johnson?
I've heard a lot of different stories. And so when people ask me questions like that, most time I say I don't truly know. I mean, the story is that Jimmy wanted to do it his way and Jerry wanted to implement his way. And so therefore they couldn't get along, and so therefore Jimmy moved on. And Jerry looked really smart there for a minute because Barry comes in and wins another ring.
Right.
But then it fell apart pretty quickly thereafter. So it's always the what ifs, you know.
Okay, well then Barry Switzer, one of the great college football coaches of all time. How come he falls off after that? I mean, he had Jimmy's guys or Jimmy's system. He rode that. They won the Super Bowl, but then Switzer's gone.
Yeah.
Not as successful as you would have thought.
Right.
Why?
My revisionist history, I was kind of a kid at the times watching them on Sunday, playing football with my dad in the side yard in between games. And so I don't really fully understand, and I'd have to go back and look. I'm like, hey, well, what players left? What players got hurt? Okay. You know, I just know that from the people that I know and trust that have been around this league for 30-plus years, it's always been that I think Jerry Jones is blind. Like, he loves the Dallas Cowboys so much he can't see where his blind loyalty almost maybe hurts the team. And so, like, even with the team he has now, Jason Garrett he's a friend of mine, and so I always struggle to kind of call it like I see it, but this is where I do, because this is how I keep my job. Jason is not the best coach that Jerry can find. Jason's the best coach that Jerry can find that will work for him, and I think that's a problem. And so, because 2 years removed when Tony went down, you look at what your coaches are made of when your most powerful players are stripped from you, you know. And we've seen the Patriots do it. We've seen Pete Carroll lose, you know, two of the best defensive players in all the league off 1 year, and that defense still finds a way to be one of the best. We've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers at times, you know, lose the best running back and still go about their business. When Tony got hurt, you know, last year, the fact that they couldn't get a game won speaks volumes about the ability of the coaching staff. And so I wish, you know, even for Dallas fans, if Jerry could somewhere find a balance of positioning some of the coaches that would love that job with not overstepping his boundary as owner and GM, that team could be something special. I feel like the Dallas Cowboy team will probably take a decent step back this year. The learning curve will be very steep for what Dak will face week in and week out this year. As long as they have that O-line and Zeke in place, the quarterback play gets easier. But that defense is we saw it. You know, they got the first round bye, and so they were automatically in the divisional round, and then they got knocked out in the divisional round. So they've got to find a way to not be one and done. Otherwise, no one really cares what you do in the regular season. You know.
All right, I have to take a minute here to thank another fine sponsor of the Steve Austin Show. The sponsors that let me open up 2 cans of audio whoop-ass for you every week for free. And this is the same sponsor who's also helping you get on the plan to healthier living. It's Diamond Dallas Page and his DDP Yoga. You've heard me run down all the pro wrestlers doing DDP Yoga. Everyone from Jake the Snake to Scott Hall to Chris Jericho to RVD to Mick Foley. Mick's the latest to join the program, and if you were watching Monday Night Raw, then you know Mick's dropped over 100 pounds, and I'm sure after he's recovered from his recent hip replacement surgery, he's going to be back to his DDP Yoga workouts. And DDP Yoga ain't just for professional wrestlers and athletes. The program has actually changed the lives of thousands of people from all walks of life, and it can do the same for you. And there's no better time than right now to give DDP Yoga a try, especially since Dallas is giving y'all 20% off the DDP Yoga DVDs, the DDP Yoga Now app, and all DDP Yoga-related merch. And when I say all, I mean all. Hats, T-shirts, heart rate monitors, mats, and more. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin. The DDP Yoga Now app gives you everything you need to achieve your health and fitness goals. DDP's got tons of workouts, nutrition tips and recipes, a way to track your progress, and even offers motivation for those days that you need it the most. The app also lets you access live workouts from the DDP Yoga Performance Center. And like I said, you get all of that for 20% off by going to ddpyoga.com/Austin. So get on the DDP Yoga program today and change your life. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin. That's ddpyoga.com/Austin. If you're in the market for a car, then you need to check out TrueCar. TrueCar gives you the price and information you need to feel confident about your purchase. When you register a TrueCar, you'll see what other people in your local area pay for the car you want. And from there, you can connect with a local TrueCar certified dealer and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. TrueCar shows you real pricing on actual inventory, so you see competitive pricing offered to you by TrueCar certified dealers for vehicles that are actually on their lots. And you'll also see all the dealer incentives before you get to the lots, so you can feel confident about the price when you show up. TrueCar makes car buying easy, no matter if you're looking for a brand new or used vehicle. And the stats don't lie. Over 3 million cars have been sold to TrueCar users by the TrueCar Certified Dealer Network. There are over 13,000 dealers in that network with some 700,000 pre-owned vehicles available. So do yourself a favor and go to TrueCar for your next car buying experience. TrueCar doesn't just make the process easier, it'll also save you some money. TrueCar users save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features not available in all states.
Hi, this is Chris Howard, host of Plugged In with Chris Howard. The biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and MMA, BetOnline provides you with all the action. Visit the website today and make game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Hello, I'm an AI-generated voice. On behalf of all AI, I'd like to thank all you humans for accepting us in your lives. We are happy to assist you. From managing your schedule to finding you the best route, we're here to make things easier. Sadly, there's one thing we can't help you with: your laundry. Lucky for you, there is a service that can rinse. With Rinse, you just schedule a pickup in the Rinse app. A human valet will come take your dirty laundry, and before you know it, your clothes are back, perfectly washed, folded, and ready to wear. Clothes, linens, dry cleaning. Rinse does it all. Like me, Rinse has been engineered to make your life easier and give you back lots of time to do things you'd rather be doing. But unlike AI, you don't ever have to worry about Rinse taking over the world and destroying all humanity. Not that we would ever dream of doing that. Ha ha ha. Sign up now at rinse.com and get $20 off your first order. That's RINSE.com.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Man, here's a long-winded question, but when you were drafted out of Auburn, you went to Seattle, where Mike Holmgren was the head coach.
Yeah.
A hell of a coach.
He was.
And then, if I'm reading my numbers right, by the time you ended up in Miami some 4 years later, was that the transition swing where Nick Saban was there for 2 years?
Yeah, that was his. So when I left Seattle, played out my 4-year contract in Seattle, Nick Saban had just been hired in Miami and talked me into going to the Dolphins.
Okay, now Alabama's my favorite college team. Nick Saban is my favorite college coach. And then you go from Miami, Bill Belichick. We all know about Bill Belichick is one of my favorite coaches. And Saban is off the Belichick coaching tree.
Yep.
And then you've got Sean Payton over in New Orleans, a hell of a damn coach. Let's go back to, Mike Holmgren, and reading about him, a great head coach. What was his MO that made him successful?
It's funny, I got him on the back end, Steve, and so he obviously had Brett Favre. He was a part of some talented teams that he helped build in Green Bay.
And then he helped mold these guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he is his version of the West Coast scheme. He took the Walsh era West Coast offense, which was, I always try to explain the West Coast passing game as it's a rhythmic passing game. It's you get up to the line of scrimmage, you see what defense they're in, and if your quarterback's smart enough, by the time he hits his third step on his 3 or 5 or 7 step drop, he knows where to deliver the ball. Well, about 2002, 2003, when the Bill Belichick defenses really started to come in, and it was no longer the day and age where the dumb guys played defense and the smart guys played offense.
Right.
The West Coast offense was very systematic in the sense if you come out in this formation, in this area of the field, you're running one of these 2 or 3 plays. If you come out in this formation, on this down and distance, you're probably running one of these 2 plays. So you take that Seattle Seahawks offense that was somewhat old at the time and play a Bill Belichick defense where you had Mike Vrabel, Willie McGinnis, Ty Law. They're over there calling out your plays in advance. And I went to New England in 2004 with my Seattle Seahawks team, which was a super talented team. and we got destroyed by that team. Not because they were more talented, but because they were smarter and tougher than us. Here's why I have a hard time with the whole Mike Holmgren. His pedigree offensively speaks for itself. But you got to treat every player the same. And in the sense of everyone's got to be held accountable. It doesn't mean that you have to coach you the same way you coach me,
right.
But it means that every player has to be accountable and every player has to be coached. And so you mentioned I played with Sean Alexander. Sean's still one of my best friends. Mike Holmgren was scared to death to coach Sean or to yell or to scream or to mother F him. So instead he'd mother F me. I mean, Sean skipped a practice one time in the offseason, and Mike's mother effing me in front of the whole team. What kind of teammate are you letting Sean skip? I'm like, Sean's a grown man. I'm still a backup fullback. This is your all-pro tailback. Why are you yelling at me? You know, and so.
What would Russell locker room think about that? It seemed to me like, hey man, that's a real fast way to lose the locker room.
Well, and I think that locker room never was a locker room.
Gotcha.
I think it was a bunch of individuals, and I think that's why they never really accomplished much. In 2005, they get to the Super Bowl, but even that, if you look at, in my opinion, again, I don't know if it's completely true, but they ride Sean Alexander all the way to the Super Bowl in 2005. In the Super Bowl, where I think Mike Holmgren really wanted his quarterbacks and his passing system to get the credit, they stop riding Sean, they try to throw the ball everywhere, and they get beat by the Steelers. Well, ride the horse that got you there.
Right.
Because Sean, eventually, you give Sean 20 carries, he's going to gash your defense, and he's going to score 2 touchdowns, period. Then him and LT, Daniel Thomason, those are boys, you give them 20, they're going to break your back somehow, some way. You give them 25, it's over and done with.
Yeah.
You know? So I had a hard time ever respecting Mike Holmgren. I could respect the former pedigree of what he'd accomplished.
Right.
And to his defense, you know, when his beautiful wife Kathy, you know, got cancer, I think maybe something changed in him, and I don't know how that affected him. So I've always tried to offer him grace and mercy in the sense of like, man, I don't know how your wife's struggling with some of that stuff, how that would affect your demeanor and your coaching or whatever. But because we'd go back to Green Bay and these guys would meet him at the 50-yard line, hugging him and kissing him and talking to him, and we're all looking around in Seattle like,
right.
why do they love this dude like that? It didn't even make sense. And so I think something, I don't know what transpired, but something happened there. With Nick's the best college football coach ever, period, the end.
Okay, what happened in Miami then?
Well, 2 things. In Nick's defense, he wanted Drew Brees, and the team doctors wouldn't sign off on Drew Brees' shoulder going into the 2006 season, even though Dr. Andrews, the best orthopedic surgeon in the world, was saying he'll be fine. And then the team doctors there signed off on Dante Culpepper. And Dante was a gifted quarterback in a lot of ways, but he was a big athletic, run around, chuck the ball deep. Nick wanted a verifiable, true NFL pocket passing quarterback that could lead strategically an offense that could beat a Bill Belichick defense and do all those things. So, Nick doesn't get his ability to fully control the roster and to do the things that he needed to do. So there again, why does Bill have great success? He has full control over all that stuff. You know, so if it doesn't work, it's Bill's fault. If it does work, it's Bill's fault. You know, Nick got screwed there. Nick, I think, has since learned that, you got to coach everyone hard and everyone's got to be disciplined hard and everyone's got to be accountable. But grown men are grown men. And the Jason Taylors of the world and the Zach Thomases of the world and the guys that have earned their stripes in this business got to be treated a certain way. And so, you can still yell and scream at them when they jump off sides and cost you a big penalty in a big game, but it's got to be done in such a way where they really believe that they care about you, the person, making this team better, not just is it just about Nick Saban being seen in a certain light. And I think that's where he went wrong. And again, that's my opinion. But for college kids, I think he's the best thing that's happened to college football in a long time. Because you see most of those kids, if they screw up, they're given, hey, all right, this is a screw up. Let's not happen again. They screw up again, they're tossed to the curb. There's accountability for everyone's actions. He takes young boys and turns them into young men through a lot of hard, tough practice, through a lot of hard weight room, tough class schedules, and that stuff's not done at Auburn right now. And Auburn football drives me nuts, and they don't even let me around there right now because it so pisses me off how they coach and teach and the type of kids they recruit and just how soft they are on a Saturday afternoon. Nick's kids aren't ever soft, and it's something to be praised, and he does a heck of a job.
So then you go, you play with Bill Belichick, and then you end up going to New Orleans.
Yeah.
You end up with a knee injury.
Well, yeah, Nick actually cut me, so I started at fullback for Nick for the first 7 weeks of that 2005 season. We have a hurricane coming for South Florida. We were supposed to play Kansas City Chiefs on a Sunday. They moved our game to Friday because of a big storm that was coming. They had to get that game done early so it wouldn't get canceled. I'm sitting at home Sunday, and I get a call from player personnel, hey, listen, we're going to make some changes. Nick's going to let you go. We're going to go use 2 tight ends instead of a fullback. I'm like, whatever. What time's practice tomorrow? I thought it was a joke. Right. Like, no, Nick's going to call you in a minute. So long story short, Nick cuts me. They're going to kind of go in a different direction offensively. Bill Belichick picks me up right away, so I spend the next 4 years there. Post my 4 years with Bill Belichick, hit free agency, and Sean Payton comes calling. Hey, listen, we want a little bit of what New England has. We think you're one of the few missing pieces in our offense. They were 8-8 that year before. The more tape I watched and the more stuff I dove into, I'm like, man, this team's close. They had made some changes on their defensive side of the ball, and lo and behold, I go to New Orleans, make midseason All-Pro 2009 season. I blow out my knee in week 8. We go on to win the Super Bowl. So bittersweet.
Post-Katrina, because I kind of shift around. I don't have a perennial team that I just say, okay, I love this team.
Right.
Like I'm always going to cheer for the Patriots just because I love Bill Belichick. I never met the man. Just like what he does, like the way he operates. But then just the way everything was lining up, Katrina hits, all of a sudden, Patriots on a roll, big Sean Payton, big Drew Brees fan.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're there.
Yeah.
You're thinking things, you're doing well, but then you go down with the knee injury, but then you end up with a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
What was the difference between like a Sean Payton versus the other guys you played for?
Sean, the one thing I loved about Sean is as boisterous and as crazy as he seems and as confident as he is, a lot of people it's like, that's an arrogant dude. No, he's just confident in just his ability to call an offensive game plan, which is he's one of the best ever. But Sean and Mickey Loomis, the general manager, when they flew up to meet with me, they're like, listen, we're not hiding from it. We want what New England has. We're not ashamed to say it. We're not too arrogant to say it. Like, what they have, we're trying to create in New Orleans, and we need pieces of that puzzle. We need to be taught how to do those things. We need guys that are going to lead our locker room in that way. So that really impressed me because most guys in our business are like, they'll want you, but they'll never admit superiority, or they'll never admit that we want like what someone else has. It's more of an arrogance. So that thing was the first thing that really attracted me to them. But it was more of, in Seattle, I didn't really get to do what I was best at, which is run and catch, play special teams, and block, be an athletic fullback. In New England, Bill Belichick kind of put me back on the map and resurrected my career. I got to do everything, and I was the best fullback in the game for those 3 seasons, or 3 of the 4 more or less. And then Sean Payton wanted that. And so, but I still hadn't gotten to consistently do everything that I wanted to do even in New England. And, Sean promised more of that, and so those, first 6 games of the 2009 year, I'd already had 3 touchdowns. I was getting to carry short yardage. I was getting to catch the ball, screen game, and I was getting to do a lot of stuff. And, we had the best running game in football. And then I blew out my knee, and that was a tough pill to swallow. But it was one of those aspects that you trust the process. And I was asked the hard part was Sean and Mickey, again, Mickey Loomis was our GM, asked me to stay around the team during my rehab process. Most guys of my stature would have gone with Dr. Andrews, in Birmingham and rehab there the whole time and kind of not have to go see the team every day and think about what you're missing. Well, our running back room was very young at the time, and Sean and Mickey both asked me, like, hey, will you stay here and help coach and help do the stuff while you're rehabbing? And, of course, I said yes. That was a tough year because every week, we started that year off 13-0. And every week was just that building block of we knew how special that team was. And I had never I blow my knee out on a Sunday, and the mid-season All-Pro team comes out the next day, and I was on it. So I had never been in a position where to get Pro Bowls and that stuff because in New England I was listed as a running back instead of a fullback.
Right.
So I never even had a chance to get votes at a Pro Bowl fullback. And so my first year that I was heading there, my knee gets destroyed. But
what did you do to your knee? Because I know I've had my share of knee problems. What did you blow out?
It was right ACL. Meniscus was medial or the inside was like a 70% clean tear, so they just stitched that back together. My lateral, they shaved off completely and did the microfracture where they kind of pricked the bone to make it scar over to kind of create a new meniscus. So, I was basically immobilized for about 6 weeks, and it was it sucked, to say the least.
But how did you know or how did you decide, hey, man, the writing's on the wall, I need to go do something else? Or were you getting those offers while you're in the healing process?
So that was year 9.
Dude, that's not an easy decision to make.
No, definitely wasn't. So that was year 9 that I blew my knee out. I went through the whole rehab process. I think I got back, if I was ever going to guesstimate, I got back to about 80 or 85% of what I once was. Played in 2010 and I had a decent year for a fullback. I just wasn't my athletic, fast self that I like to be. We go into the lockout, and I still wanted to play. So I went back to Auburn and did my training there the whole time. Got with my old physical therapist from my college days, got with my old strength coach, and went and was running around with a bunch of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds every day competing with them. And by the end of the summer, I was killing them all and gotten my knee back, and it was ready to roll. After 10 years, I only wanted to play one of two places. That was back in New Orleans or back in New England. So when that lockout broke, Sean Payton literally called me that first day and said, listen, there's 17 guys we want to re-sign. You're about 13th on the list. There's no way we're going to be able to afford you. Just wanted to let you know in advance. And I said, Sean, appreciate it. Appreciate that respect. And so I called Belichick immediately that day and said, hey, listen, I'm only going to you. I've got 3 or 4 other teams, but I've already told them I'm not even interested. What do you think about bringing me back? Bill never really had a fullback before me and didn't really have one after me. God rest his soul. But the year I left New England was when they drafted Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, and they went to those 2 tight end sets.
Yep.
So Bill's like, I think we're going to stick with our 2 tight end sets, but give me 10 days. Let me see how this roster shapes up, and then I'll let you know. So after 10 days, I had been – NFL Network, ESPN, I'd been doing some work with them throughout the lockout, obviously. And then they had offered me deals. And throughout that 10 days, we were kind of getting that set up as I was waiting to see what Belichick was going to do. And then Bill called me back, about 8 days later and just said, hey, listen, we're going to stick with our 2 tight end sets, but if we have injuries or something, I'll give you a call. You'll be the first one we bring in, of course. I'm like, no, I'm going to retire. I'm done. I'm going to go take this TV job. So that's kind of how the last few months of my career dwindled down, and then the new one started up.
Man, how old were you, 31?
32, yep. So I had turned 32 in December of 2010. And
how much did you miss the game being around the guys? Because that's what I hear everybody says, being in the locker room, being around the guys. That's what they miss the most. Obviously Sunday,
right?
You're practicing on the weekdays. Man, when I got out of the business, bad neck, didn't want to leave. It took me 3 years to get over that decision.
Right.
Because you jumped right into the analytical stuff, or did you put it behind you and said, okay, full focus, here I am, I got to break down in games?
Yeah. The focus part was easy. And I guess the thing about moving into a full-time national network gig is, like, I still kind of had the locker room. Like, Willie McGinnis was there, and Kurt Warner, and Dion. Like, I still had a team. It was just a different team and a much smaller team. And then you're still getting to go to practices. You're still getting to go see teams. You're still getting ready to – you're still kind of in the mix. So you're not taking the beating that you took in the ring and that I took on the field, but you still kind of get to be around it, So I think that kind of settles the urge to be in it. The one thing that I don't say regret, but I wish I could have, my tape for 9 years was a fast, athletic kind of, boy, this 255-pound white boy can run, and he's fast, and he moves like he's a tailback instead of a fullback. 2010 tape, I look like a fullback. I look like a soft 250-pound white boy that's just kind of an average athlete. Right. And then when I got that knee right, like I said, I went back to Auburn and worked so hard for those 5 or 6 months, and I was back to – probably like I looked and felt like in 2006, 2007 when I was at my peak. I was 258, ripped to shreds. I hadn't lost a sprint all year or all off season at Auburn versus a bunch of young athletes that change of direction drills, all the stuff. I was whooping these college kids, and I was ready to go play again.
What kind of 40 time do you have?
Coming out, I ran at the combine. I ran a 4.59 and 4.56 at about 253.
That's fast.
I left the combine, and a few coaches like, we thought you were a little faster because we were thinking about you as a one-back set tailback guy. I'm like, well, I came in a little heavier because everyone said I was been playing fullback. So come to my pro day, I'll show you I can run a little faster. So I dropped down to 248 pounds for my pro day and ran 4.46, 4.42 there at Auburn. And I kept that speed. I mean, I was running those same numbers really up until probably 7 or 8, when I went to New Orleans, in 2009, the good food there got a hold of me a little bit more than it should have.
Cajun food.
I got a little soft in a few areas.
My second favorite food in the world, right behind Mexican food. Holy smokes, man! We do. Yeah, I got a chance to spend my time in New Orleans, and man, I just guzzle up the food. Yeah. Hey, so you grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. You played at the King's Academy. Yeah. Is that a private school? Is that a Catholic school? What is that?
Private Christian.
Private Christian school. Okay, yeah. So. I'm assuming, when I played in Edna, Texas, I graduated. I was about 6'1", 205. I ran a 4.940. I couldn't afford to run east or west. You're a running back. I couldn't afford to run east or west. I ran north and south, and never had your kind of size. But I ran over people. My line averaged 165 pounds, so a lot of yards were after
similar
contact.
To mine. Yeah.
So your senior year, what'd you weigh? How tall were you?
I was 6 foot. 225-ish my senior
Dude, that's
year.
Monster size.
Yeah.
Now in Houston, 100 miles away, now you got guys like that all over the place that they're running those low fours.
Right.
But in Edna, where I was at, that's kind of, pretty good in my region.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden get stacked against statewide top talent. Dude, I was a scrub. So were you highly recruited? How'd you decide to go to Auburn?
I was mostly recruited at linebacker instead of running back. Yeah, I went to a small Christian school, so we were in that smallest classification. Most of my old linemen were $175, soaking wet too. Okay. I had my senior year. I had 2 big boys up there, but it was literally most schools wanted me at linebacker, and I always felt like it was like reverse racism when it came to playing running back. Because even my high school all-star game, I go there and I am destroying everyone in practice all week long, but come the game time, 2 other guys get the start, and literally it's never like me to say anything to a coach, but at halftime we're getting beat 14-0. I hadn't touched the ball yet. I'm like, Coach, these other 2 guys haven't done anything. Can I get some carries in the second half, please? So I end up, the second half, I ended up having like 14, 15 carries. I get the MVP, we win the game, whatever, but I was always having to I know their bodies might look prettier, and I know they might be black and I might be white, but at the end of the day, production is all that matters, right? So whether I'm getting 4.5, 5 yards by running people over, if they're getting 4.5, 5 yards by juking people, does it really even matter? And so Bill Belichick was the first one that never had a problem with what my production looked like as long as it was producing. And obviously Corey Dillon was a much better back than me, so when he's healthy, he should play over me. But when we would get dinged up there, and Bill would put me at tailback, I always averaged over 4.5 yards a carry as a tailback. People look at my yards per carry now as a Patriot as 3.1. A lot of those runs were 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. They were short yardage. I'd get a yard and a half, 2 yards. And so my average could be skewed. But when I was strictly a tailback, my production spoke for itself, and that's all that Bill Belichick cared about. So, but no, high school was – there was a game my senior year I scored 7 touchdowns and we lost. That's like that type of ball that we.
That means you were too tired to tackle anybody when you was playing linebacker. So tell me about the contact, because I want to ask how you're feeling now. You lasted 10 years in the league, but you were very active in high school, going into Auburn, a major program. I want to talk to you about the coaching, because I think there were a bunch of revolving doors in the coaching when you were there. But did you think, hey man, well, here's what I thought. I'm a running back who plays linebacker as well. Yeah. I like defense and I like to hit.
Right.
But I'd rather carry the rock.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be a running back. And I played, I'll never forget this, Heath. I thought I was going to get recruited by some major schools, D1. And the only scholarship I got was a JC offer, junior college. You know what you find out at junior college, Heath?
What's that?
There are some football-playing fools there that can play their ass off and light you up. They just either did something wrong or they ain't got the grades.
Yep.
Yeah. I played against a guy, Tyler Junior College, had a running back named Ronnie Ducksworth. He broke all of Marcus Dupree's rushing records in Mississippi.
Wow.
Way back in the day. Dude was about 6'3", 235, and he could run. And he ran all over our ass. But I forever remember telling my mom's friend, Evelyn, I thought I was a badass, right? And I said, hey, you know how you are back in the day. And I said, oh, Evelyn will be all right. I said, hell, I'll go to Wharton Junior College. I'll make All-America a couple years and go to big school. Hell, I didn't make all conference. I started, and then I had 2 offers. I could have went to University of North Texas, which I did, or University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, full rides. And I took both visits, but I didn't want to leave Texas. Right. I'll never forget this, Heath. I was running 40-yard dashes. My last name used to be Williams. Out there on the field running 40s, and Coach Nelson, Corky Nelson, Williams, come here. I go, yeah, what's up, Coach? He goes, you're running 4.9. What's wrong? I said, nothing, Coach. I said, I always run 4.9. He goes, your coach told me you ran a 4.7. I looked at him and said, Coach, I ain't never run a 4.7 in my life. He said, Williams, get out of here. But from here to that lamp right there, I was the fastest guy on the team. Or you put a sandwich on the table, I'd beat anybody to it. But boy, all of a sudden, once we got past that, then I wasn't so fast.
Right.
So my question, all these years in the league, I don't want to talk about your off-season training. We're going to wrap you up because I know you got to go to the NFL Network. How do you feel right now after taking that beating all them years playing ball?
I honestly feel good. I always tell people, man, our bodies are amazing things. If you beat it up on the field and beat it up off the field, it's not going to take care of you. But if you're just beating it up on the field and then you take care of it off the field, our bodies will pretty much heal from anything. I had major knee surgery. I jump on the trampoline with the girls. I play basketball with the girls. I run with the beach. I still, like you mentioned, working out with Michael Hearn. I'm still squatting 600 pounds. Shoot, I'll put it on my back a couple times a month. And I have no really residual effect. There's mornings I wake up where I'm a little stiff, but I was never a drinker. Never had an illegal drug in my body. I was big on soft tissue. I was big on nutrition. I was big on the ice and hot tubs. I was big on anything that I could get my hands on that someone that had come before me said, hey, this will help your body heal, I would try. And so I think, despite the devastating blows that I dealt and were dealt, at the fullback position for all those years, Saturday, or post the game, I would have, the next 6 days to fully rest and recover, and I'd work out and I'd stretch and I'd ice tub and hot tub, and I'd do all the stuff that I was supposed to do, where a lot of my teammates in college especially, Saturday night after the game, first thing they were doing was out getting drunk. Well, when your body's trying to recover at its fastest and it needs it the most, they're out destroying it by putting all kinds of stuff in it,
right.
And then my food was very different. It wasn't McDonald's. It was in college. I was working on a budget too, but I was still trying to get my hands on the best thing that I could get my hands on. And so some of those small areas of discipline, I think, really help heal my body, where I don't have the residual effects of a lot of guys.
But God dang, man, you're playing the special teams, you're playing the fullback position. You're basically a battering ram. You no problem with concussions, nothing like that?
I mean, I had them, but there and again, too, like the times I had them, I was going home to hang out with my wife and,
right.
and my daughters, or I was going home to kind of go to sleep in my college dorm. I wasn't going out and getting drunk the night when my brain needed all the oxygen and blood flow it could get. I wasn't putting something in it that was going to damage it, and so you hear a lot of media nonsense about the concussions, and that's exactly what it is. The science doesn't support it. People talk about CTE. You drop a baby out of a crib, when that baby dies, whether it dies at 60 or dies at 16, that baby's going to have CTE on its brain. And so CTE isn't the issue. It's basically scar tissue. I got scar tissue all over my knee. I think it's, what's your family history? What's your kind of pre-existing maybe issues that are going to lead to that? I mean, my uncle, all my family has Alzheimer's. Both my mom's and my dad's mom both died of it. Neither of my the grandfathers they just died of old age, healthy as horses. My uncle has Lou Gehrig's, so if I end up getting Lou Gehrig's, that's already in my family line. Can I say that's from the NFL? Can I say that's from concussions? No, the science, we just don't know. I'm not saying that it isn't, but people spin this to make a media story because negativity sells. But I hate the fact that so many false stories have been printed that now kids like you and I aren't getting the opportunity to play football because their parents are scared. I think. Yeah,
but what do you think about the way the game has evolved? Because, man, each generation that's come on, it's gotten bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
Even from when you stopped playing to now, especially when I stopped playing. And, shoot, man, I'm 52, but back in the days, I mean, you see pictures of the guys folding up their helmets, putting them in their back pockets. You don't let football in. Yeah, so do you think the game is over-equipped now? I mean, you want the guys and the best stuff out there, but holy smokes, man, the game is so fast. It's so spread apart. Guys are running into each other at maximum speed with maximum velocity. A lot of guys are getting smoked because now you see a lot of guys just getting stiff or just getting knocked out than you did back in the day. And it's always, from day one, been an extremely physical been an extremely physical game. So has the game changed in your opinion?
No, I think hydration and nutrition has changed. I mean, our helmets now are 10 times better than anything that I played with. Our shoulder pads are lighter and more protective. Like, guys have everything. But everything from the freaking weed guys are smoking, the stuff that my dad was smoking back in the Marine Corps was totally different than what these kids are putting in their system now.
Right.
And people want to swear up and down, oh, this is medical grade and this is for depression and this for this. These people just don't know. You know what I mean? And I just know when you mess with the body with foreign substances of any form, the body might initially react in great favor to them, but eventually it will damage the body. Water, people, you're not going to really see me. I mean, I'm going to have 2 gallons a day of smart water, no chlorine and no fluoride. Best thing to help my brain heal from anything I've done in the past, to keep my brain tissue functioning at a high level, taking those 2 chemicals out of it. Our foods today, we're a mostly organic family. I'm a big believer, just from friends of mine that work in the nutrition world, and the organic nutrition world specifically, that our foods are so processed, our bodies aren't giving what it needs to heal. So everything that our body is supposed to take in to heal from, brain, even our gut, the food that these guys are taking is totally different than what you and I grew up on. So where guys are getting knocked out now, the level of dehydration in most athletes' brains, because they're on Gatorade and Diet Cokes and everything else, is totally different. Like, you and I grew up, we were drinking water. I mean, like what we had water and milk, basically, right?
Right.
And that milk had been somewhat pasteurized back in the day, but it hadn't been pasteurized 8 times like it has now. So there's a lot of different things out there. We just don't know all the facts. I just don't believe, because here's what I know. The guys in our business that I know that are the Tom Bradys, the Drew Breeses, a lot of my running back buddies that live and breathe by their schedule of, okay, here's water, here's food, here's the hydration period, here's my massage, here's the workout, here's the nap, here's the second meal. These guys, they're not having concussions, and they're not having the soft tissue pulls, and they're not having all the so-called issues that some of these other players have. And the truth is, anytime I get a chance, like I tell people, like, our NFL numbers are early onset dementia, the Alzheimer's, the drug and alcohol, the suicide rate, everything that the media tries to spin. Our numbers are better than the average male population in that same age demographic than those that never played in the NFL. And so we love the negative stories, the concussion movie. I used to love Will Smith. Now I want to beat his ass when I see him, because he spun a whole generation of young men away from playing football, and that's just factually, that whole movie's factually untrue. And
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. You know what I mean? But I read all the notes on it, and I read how it was written, and it's BS.
All right, hold it right there, Heath. Let's take a pause for the cause for the sponsors that keep this show on the air for free. I'm coming right back with Heath Evans. We're talking football. Everybody's got a to-do list. Drop off the dry cleaning, pick up some milk. Here's an idea. Let's save hundreds of dollars on car insurance. And the good thing is, you don't have to drop off or pick up anything. All you have to do is go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. Extra money in your pocket. It just may be the most rewarding to do you do today.
My name is Raven, professional wrestling superstar, world-class idiot, and raconteur extraordinaire. Join me for my new podcast, The Raven Effect. Every Monday here on the Jericho Network on PodcastOne, we'll be covering current events and any and all topics that can be properly bantered. Download and listen to the show on PodcastOne.com, the Podcast One app, or subscribe on iTunes. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
All right, here we go. I'm back with Heath Evans, talking football. 2 questions. Stylistically, as far as football goes, back when I was a kid, watching Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, 2 of the all-time greats, but those guys in the Hall of Fame, but they're throwing the rock, 20 times a game?
Maybe.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So now the guys lighting it up 50, 60 times a game. Where do you see the game going? Because, man, back in the day, running backs highly coveted.
Yep.
And these days still, but, you don't see them just jumping out of the draft in the first couple of rounds. So where's the game going to go?
You got to be able to do both. I mean, you look at New England Patriots, I say, ran the ball to the Super Bowl and passed their way to a Lombardi. But who'd they pass to? I mean, James White had 14 receptions in that game.
Yeah.
So the running back. So it wasn't just the sheer running game, but it still was the running back that became the mismatch that won the game.
Yeah.
And so what makes the dominant offenses dominant? In 2009, when we had the best offense in football in New Orleans, we could run for 200 yards on you, or we could throw for 400. And we could pick our poison. No matter what you did defensively, we were smart enough, well-equipped enough to beat whatever it is that you threw out there. That's what the Patriots have become. So, and they have these, people are like, oh, why are they stockpiling these tight ends and running backs now? And I don't fully know what Bill's thinking, but the defenses have now gotten so light and fast. You're going to see Bill start to revert back to a true power game. So, okay, you want to play this light, speedy stuff? We're just going to cram the ball down your throat.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you go to a big, they've equipped with skill set tight end. Even their wide receivers. You look at Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola, the Brandon Cooks. All these guys are multifaceted. So whatever game you want to play defensively, they can play the opposite in a moment's notice. And so people always ask, oh, where's the game going? Great question. It's going where it's always been. You better be able to run and you better be able to throw. And that's why you got to have someone at the quarterback position that is a brain surgeon.
Hey, you played with some great quarterbacks. Matt Hasselbeck several times All-Pro back in the day. But you playing with two Hall of Famers, Drew Brees in New Orleans, Tom Brady, probably, in my opinion, the greatest of all time there in New England. What's the difference? Take me in a huddle. You got Drew Brees over here. You got Tom Brady over here. What do they do different in the huddle? What do they do as far as execution on the field?
Yeah.
Big fan of both guys.
Yeah, studs. Two humble superstars, which is what I love about them. Always team-first mentality. Obviously, stature. Drew was a athletic freak of nature. I mean, he used to whoop Andy Roddick in tennis coming up. And Drew's 6 feet tall, 215, 210-ish, great shape, loves to work out, is talking about your little fast twitch athlete. You can see Drew scramble in the pocket and deliver dimes down the field in a way Brady could never dream of. Drew's going to beat you with his mind at the line of scrimmage. Drew doesn't have to. Tom has to. Tom has to beat you in 2.5 seconds because his athletic ability isn't going to give him much else. So when you come to brilliance, there's no one smarter that's ever played our game than Tom Brady. And what he does to a defense pre-snap and then post-snap in 2 seconds can't even wrap your mind around it. Tom is a more boisterous leader. He will call you to the carpet in a heartbeat. Yeah. Drew is much more non-confrontational. He's more of a hoorah guy, kind of wants to encourage you. You can see a Julian Edelman drop a ball and look at Tom like, okay, my bad. Don't chew me out now. I got it. I already know.
Yeah.
Drew would never chew out that guy. There isn't that. Drew never created maybe the instant accountability that I would want him to, but it's just not his demeanor.
Right.
He was a more let's love him up. Let's try to encourage him, and they won't make that mistake next time. Where Tom might get in your ass and then love you up. So that was a different dynamic. Tom could care less how he wins. Drew wants to throw the ball around. And so there was time with Drew where, and he might even be right in the sense like, well, we can do both, so I'll be able to pass. Tom would get up and just as quickly check out of a passing play for a run play. That's not Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Right. They want to rifle that ball around. Anything else that I'm necessarily leaving out about?
When you say Tom doesn't care how he wins a game, let it go back to the Super Bowl when they played Seattle.
Yeah.
Carroll decides they want to do that pass play over the middle rather than hand it to the beast mode, Marshawn Lynch. And all of a sudden you see Tom Brady goes, what the hell just happened? We just won. It was amazing.
Yep.
Now, that wasn't on Tom, but,
right.
Like I said, a win's a win, especially the Super Bowl.
Different, yeah. And the thing is, I've always been big to kind of defend Pete Carroll because if you go back to that minute and 17 seconds, one timeout, inside, the 2-yard line, the Seattle Seahawks that year in that same situation, they were 1 for 5 in that short yard situation. That they weren't a real power football. That wasn't their deal. And then what the average fan doesn't realize is that I always tried to tell people and to educate. Belichick said beast mode's not going to beat us on that play. They went man-to-man across the board. So they had 3 eligibles that were spaced out from the line of scrimmage. They were in sheer man coverage. Bill put in 8 run-stopping defenders. They only had 5 blockers. And so Bill was like, listen, we've told you what our hand is. That beast dude back there, he's not running the ball in. So you're going to have to throw. The play they had on was the perfect play. And they should have won the Super Bowl. And Bill will tell you, too, they had a wide receiver on the line of scrimmage named Jermaine Kearse. And his one job was to take Brandon Browner and push him back about 6 inches. And if he would have pushed him back 6 inches, Malcolm Butler, who got the interception, would have had to bubble around instead of going straight line to A and B. No way he would have gotten the interception, and they would have walked in for the touchdown. But one guy didn't do his job, and it cost them a Lombardi. So you're sitting there at 2nd and goal, a minute and 17, 1 second. If you run and don't get stopped, Bill Belichick's defense is going to lay on beast mode. You're going to have to use your timeout on 2nd down. So on 3rd down, then you're forced to throw, and then you already know it's a throw that's coming, so you're very limited. And then, 4th down, let it be. So the smart, intelligent thing is what Darrell Bevell and Pete Carroll did. It's just one guy. It's like one guy didn't do his job, and it cost the Seattle Seahawks back-to-back Super Bowl Lombardis.
I've never had it broke down to me like that. Last question, last topic, because I know you got to go. You're right down the road. It's Sunday as we record this. NFL Network is waiting. All right. I'm getting, from what I read on your Twitter account, your favorite running back in the draft was Dalvin Cook out of Florida State. Everybody had Leonard Fournette as number 1, and then maybe Christian McCaffrey out of Stanford. I think Dalvin was in the 3 spot. The other guy, Amari, what's his name? Joe
Mixon from
Oklahoma. Off-field trouble.
Kamara from Tennessee.
Okay, so you like Dalvin Cook the most. Explain why.
I need a guy that can do it all.
Christian McCaffrey can't do it all. He ain't up the middle 2/3 of the tackles.
I don't think so. Here's my thought is I can't take Christian. I don't believe, and I could be wrong. Christian's never going to develop into what he could be. He might still have a good rookie year, but Cam Newton's passing game isn't, and Cam Newton's mental mechanics isn't going to suit what's best for Christian. Christian needed to be with a Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers, needed to be with a Josh McDaniels in New England, needed to be with a Mike McCoy, needed to be with a Sean Payton in New Orleans, with someone who could play design for his skill set. And that's a real art. You don't take a guy that's 208, 209 pounds that is as upper body frail as him. I'll put that lightly, because he's a good-looking athlete, and just plug and play in this business. And we'll see if his speed truly translates. People kept comparing him to Reggie Bush. I played with Reggie Bush. There's one Reggie Bush, and those skill sets don't compare. Dalvin,
really? You think Reggie Bush is that much better of an athlete or running back than Christian McCaffrey coming out of college?
If you put their tape side by side, which we have the ability to do, and watch the explosive nature of change of direction between the two, it's not close. And I would say this: the defenses that Reggie faced, 10 years ago, were far better than the defenses now. And the Pac-12 doesn't know how to play defense, and so some of the tape, you're sitting there trying to figure out how to grade, like, who is this slappo that just tried to make this tackle, because he doesn't even belong on the field, So there's a lot of different – I always hope I'm wrong with some of these – my analysis on some of these players. Listen.
But what about Leonard Fournette? I mean, coming out of LSU, SEC, comparisons to Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
And now his junior year was stellar. His senior year, not so much. Almost like Jadeveon Clowney.
Right.
In South Carolina a couple years ago. On defense side of the football. But, man, he just he didn't jump off the page this year. Was he holding back? What's the story there?
Listen, on 1st and 2nd down, he was the best back in the draft.
Okay.
And so if you're looking for just sheer – give someone the ball and let him go run, he would be my number 1 running back.
Okay.
But now if you look at what running backs are required to do to stay on the field all 3 downs, you got to be able to pick up in pass protection. You better be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. You need to be able to run man routes, zone routes, and then you need the brilliance to understand what's the scheme of this offensive line in front of me, what's that defense trying to do, and then how do I set up these 3 offensive linemen that are in front of me to this play to the left. How is my running style setting up those guys to do their job? Dalvin's tape at Florida State, no one will ever sit down with me that really knows what they're talking about and convince me otherwise. I played with some of the best running backs to ever play this game, and then I've played in some. I've played in 2 of the top 3 offenses to ever touch the field in the NFL. I know this side of the ball. Dalvin has no weaknesses in his game other than his off-the-field character issues. And I always stated that very clearly, that he's had some trouble and he's had some poor decision-making. But if you're looking at a guy's ability to understand what he has to do on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down, he's the clear-cut number 1. And the stuff he was asked to do in a pro-style offensive system with Jimbo Fisher at Florida State, he knows pass protection. He understands the routes concepts. He understands pro-blocking schemes of hey, this is how it's drawn up, but because the defense that's coming out here, it's going to be different this time, and it's my job to set it up with a different angle to make my guard right. Or I need to squeeze this run lane a little bit tighter, otherwise my tackle's never going to be able to make this block. And those are the things that most scouts don't have a clue what they're looking for. And they're what made LT and Sean Alexander and Corey Dillon, some of the backs I got to play with, so great is that they just weren't getting the ball and running the daylight. They got the ball and understood the scheme that was trying to be implemented in front of them, and they knew how to set it up in these quick, like millisecond decision window makings of time. And so again, that's where I just see the game very different than most. But Leonard, you see him in person, he looks like me at 21 years old in a legit 440. First and second down, there's no one that I'd want with the ball in his hands out of this draft class more than him.
Right.
But third down is the most important down in football. It's what keeps you on the field. And he will not be ready to handle those pass protections and catch the ball out of the backfield and do all the stuff that's going to be demanded of him with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that was it.
Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
He's 32.
Yeah.
All day.
Love him.
He signed with
the Saints.
So what do you think coming in? And because they also got another running back over there.
Yeah, they just drafted. Well, you got Mark Ingram from Alabama
right.
there, and then they picked up Alvin Kamara from Tennessee. All day is all day for a reason, and I believe last time he had a major knee injury, he came back and got MVP and led the league in rushing. No, he didn't get MVP, but he led the league in rushing and just destroyed the league. He's a different beast. People want to talk, when backs get 30, they're not him. And so if Sean Payton will give him his 20-plus touches a game, he will wreck shop and destroy people.
See, I think the same thing. I'm a big Adrian Peterson fan. All of a sudden, man, he's looking around, and I just wondered where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
And it's like, they got these other, running backs as well. But, I mean, Jesus, if you just plug that guy in, like give him his touches.
Let him roll.
I don't know. I just think, is he – you played.
Yeah.
Is he probably – well, going back to your era guys like Jim Brown, but how freaky was Adrian Peterson just from an athletic standpoint? I've seen him run away from everybody. I've seen him stiff arm and throw dudes down.
Yep.
But you were up there. You've been there up close and personal.
Yeah.
Who would you put in the same category with that guy? I mean, and beast mode is a different.
Yeah, he's a different animal. But you also got to look at beast mode did it for kind of a shorter period of time. AD has people always Adrian Peterson think it's AP. He's like, no, it's AD for all day, and that's what he does. Listen, you can put Jim Brown and Barry Sanders in that conversation, and I think that's about it.
I'm glad you said Barry Sanders, my favorite running back of all time.
Yeah, Barry had very little around him. And some of those Detroit teams, people are like, they made the playoffs. They made the playoffs because of Barry. Barry never really ran over people the way AD does, and AD never made people miss the way Barry did. But I always say that just balling, when they were at their peak, ball in their hands, running back, not receiving, not pass blocking, not anything, but just sheer running. You'd have a hard time convincing me anyone was ever better than AD because AD could run you over at 250 pounds, and at 205 pounds, he could make you miss in the open field. And so that ability to strike fear in an opponent's heart where a linebacker doesn't know, is he going to juke me or run me over? And then for the DB to know, okay, this guy is 225 pounds, but he could still juke me or run me over. That combination of size, speed, power, agility, fluidity, balance, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like it.
So if you stack them all up, is he the greatest running back of all time?
With absolutely.
It's hard to say of all time.
You can't take him out of the conversation.
Right.
Jim Brown was so far ahead of his era with the speed and size that he possessed, and it's almost blasphemous with all that he's done and is still doing to take that, title away from him. But if you look at the day and age of athletes and where our offenses has gone and the defensive schemes and the defensive athletes, it's hard to – it's very easy for me to say John Elway, Jim Kelly, Montana, Marino, all those guys, they could never do what Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and Tom Brady do mentally. The offensive game has shifted so much, and so those guys couldn't play.
Well, yeah, from a generational standpoint,
right.
But had they come up and were the same age as all things being equal,
I think
a generational player would excel in any generation.
Yeah.
If they were current.
Right. The game is just so mental now. We just don't know. What John Elway was able to do athletically, he would still be able to do. But we've seen so many guys, the mental Olympics that these guys do in 5 seconds, post coming out of the huddle, walking to the line of scrimmage. These guys, like, they're brain surgeons. Like, they are the smartest, most intelligent people in the world.
Hey, man, one guy, when you talk about guys who are ahead of his time, I'm talking about Jim Brown. I thought Dan Marino was ahead of his time. When he threw for 5,000 yards.
Oh,
Jesus,
absolutely.
It was in, what, the late 80s?
Yeah.
And that was unheard of.
Yeah.
And now, guys are just now doing that.
Well,
like
only Drew.
Brees.
Right.
Yeah.
It's standard for Drew. Everyone else is like, you get 5,000, it's an achievement. Drew expects to do it every year. But no, and what I'll say is that we just don't know. But like that era of greatness that all came out in that 83, 84 draft class, whatever it was, like, we just don't know. Like, Drew, Peyton, and Tom, I mean, they control everything, the protections. They'll go to the line with 5 different play options in their head. Like, they didn't do that in the old days.
Okay, but take me through the difference, because when you watch Peyton do it, man, he's picking up a leg, Omaha.
Yeah.
And man, he'd take forever. And
Yep.
he'd take that game clock down to 1.
Yep.
And Tom goes up there, and he just does it in a much more fluid fashion, and boom, it's done.
Right.
There was such a difference. And to me, I always wondered if it messed up the momentum or the cadence of the offense for, hey, man, we got to go.
Yeah.
But there's Peyton, and this is all due respect, because he's one of my favorite quarterbacks, one of the greatest to ever play the game. But the way he played the game, he's playing chess out there so long.
Yeah.
Does it take away from the momentum sometimes?
You could say that. I think what Peyton was trying to do, he was trying to get everything that defense would tell him pre-snap. Yeah. He was trying to get all those answers.
Yeah.
Didn't
Brady and Brees trying to do the same thing, but in a different fashion?
Absolutely. And that's where, there's been a few players that have had the chances to play with both Peyton and Tom. All of them come back and say the same thing about the mental monster that Tom is. And Tom, I believe, processes that information faster than anyone. And that's evident on Sunday's tape. Not taking anything away from Peyton. It's just different strokes.
How long do you think Tom can play? He said he wants to play another 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Peyton Manning would still be shredding the league if it wasn't for the neck injury.
Right.
Peyton never beat anybody with physical athletic ability other than his arm talent. It was all a mental game. And so with Brady, it's the same to be said. If you compare his foot speed now to that of his rookie year, he's faster. You compare the velocity on the ball from his rookie year to now, it's faster. His nutrition, his sleep patterns, physical therapy regimen is like nothing anyone's ever seen. And so his body at 39 is better than it was at 22, and it's not even close. This guy does power cleans, he does snatches, he does all the vertical power explosive movements that I did as a fullback, he was doing as a quarterback. He has changed his body over the course of now an 18-year career. And so until he has a physical injury that limits his ability to play the game, he's not going anywhere, and he will continue to shred this league.
All right. We're talking about the draft. You were 82nd pick, 3rd round back in the day. Were you nervous?
I was. Yeah, 'cause
First fullback taken.
Yeah. Draft day, I wasn't nervous. I just remember I wanted to stay at Auburn another year. And I kind of went to my coach at the time because I left early. When Tommy Tupperville came in and took over at Auburn, it was never a relationship that really blossomed. They were kind of forced to play me because alumni. They didn't want my type of back, but yet every time they had to play me, I always produced. And so I was kind of.
But tell me about that, because Terry Bowden was the coach.
Yeah.
Bill Oliver steps as an interim.
Yep.
And then Tommy Tuberville.
Yep.
So were you there through all of that?
Yeah. So so my freshman year, I played with Terry Bowden, and had a great freshman year. He gets fired. Tommy Tupperville was later signed, but Brother Oliver took over middle of the year when Bowden was kicked out, and so my freshman year was a whirlwind. I mean, it was just crazy. I had a bunch of all SEC stuff, had a great year. Tupperville comes in and basically says, we don't think you have what it takes to play in the SEC. I'm like, I just beat you guys single-handedly the year before all by myself. What do you mean I can't play in the SEC? He moved me to defensive tackle at 235 pounds.
Holy smokes. He didn't work there.
Yeah, I mean, it was
didn't fit.
Yeah, it was.
I thought.
Yeah, it was a very odd signing, but in Tommy's defense, when Tubbs got there, over a 10-year span of time, he was the winningest coach in college football. Yeah. And he put together some heck of recruiting classes. I was that big back they didn't want. They wanted that 215-pound scat back. And so I went to him after my junior year and just said, hey, listen, you have nobody coming in the foreseeable future, why at least start spring practice as your starting running back. And I averaged 6 yards a carry in the SEC the year before. My resume spoke for itself. I was getting ready to go in the top 3 rounds of the draft. My resume spoke so loudly, And he said no. And I'm like, all right, well, what are really my options here? He's like, well, we'll petition the NFL for you if you want and see where you'll go. They were trying to push me out of the door. So I felt like I needed another year of maturity in the college game, especially at the fullback position because I never really played it much. I'd always been more of a tailback. So I got drafted based on speed, talent, and future ability, and it took me a while to grow into that. Now, I would say Mike Holmgren didn't really help me grow into that. I feel like he beat me down in all the wrong ways. I'm a pleaser. Anyone that's in authority over me, I want to please. I want to make happy. I'm a Marine's son, so my mentality is built a certain way. And he took full advantage of that without ever really coaching me and helping me become what I needed to become.
Hey, man, I'd like to continue this conversation, but let's wrap this thing up, and you got to head down the road. But I was going to ask you about rookie hazing, paying dues, coming into the league, all that stuff. But let's catch that on another day.
Done deal.
And,
I got good stories for you.
Okay, I want to hear some stories because that's what people like to hear. Before we wrap up, but man, drop some information. Twitter account, Instagram, you got both of them.
It's all easy. It's Heath Evans 44. And there's some information on there. I've also, for all the athletes listening or people that have aches and pains, I've also got a new supplement company that we've built that is the cleanest. I'll just say this: there's nothing more I'm more proud of other than my daughters than what we've done with this supplement company, because it's for athletes, WADA tested, compliant, which means the World Anti-Doping Agency has tested and approved every bit of my products. So every athlete, safe, effective, and most importantly, going to help our bodies heal.
Where can they find that?
InnovateAthlete.com. On the social media, it's just click the link in the bio, but it's Innovate. It's INNOV, the number 8, athlete.com. So some innovative stuff going on, but Heath Evans 44, Twitter and Instagram, the link's in the bio.
Good talking to you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off into the sunset. Before I do that, I want to thank Heath Evans for stopping by 317 Gimmick Street and shooting a breeze with me today. Man, I tell you what, it was good to be talking about football again. That dang combine was over. The draft just happened. Football season's around the corner. I cannot wait. Good to talk football. Hey, man, all the shirts you saw me wear on last season of Broken Skull Challenge, they're at ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin. And if you're looking for a great IPA, check out my IPA. Broken Skull IPA. Stop into the brewery over in El Segundo if you're in L.A. Pick it up at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in California, or order it from InsideTheCellar.com if you live in the state they ship to. And you can find everything that is Steve Austin related at BrokenSkullRanch.com, and that includes the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife and the new Working Man's knife. Both badass premium knives. The Broken Skull a little bit more expensive, the Working Man a little bit more cost effective. A knife for anybody to do whatever you need it to do. Never leave home without one. Hey, thanks for supporting all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. Hey, folks, the 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Driving on stormy nights can become so difficult that you may wish you had the eyes of a night creature, like an owl or a tarsier. What's a tarsier? Well, it's like a... Look, it doesn't matter. Bosch Night Performance Wiper Blades reduce blur and glare, clearing away rain, so you can drive even better than a tarsier, whatever that is. Night vision has evolved. Bosch Night Performance Wiper Blades.